Hi everyone. Today's topic is one of my favorite ones: authentication and authorization. So in early days, we used to build everything in the code, whether it is building the authentication mechanisms, the source of authentication, or even the role-based access using which role has got access to which URLs and things like that. In the modern world, I think cloud providers offer different mechanisms how to externalize this, so that we can just do it, do the same configuration but outside the application. Just an advanced stage of what Spring Security offers. So in today's demo, we will see how Google Cloud's identity aware proxy, which is IAP, handles this. So that is our topic today. So let us get into the demo now. Thank you. So for this demo, I have created a sample Angular application that I'm going to deploy to Google Cloud. It doesn't matter what we have in the application. This is just a mock application with ng as you can see. So I just compiled and making it run. So you see that, right? There's just a welcome page. It doesn't have much data. Now with this one, what we are going to do is we will just make some custom change to the welcome, so that we know that it is our application. Even otherwise we know. So the title has changed. So because of ng serve, which is more dynamic. So now what we are going to do is we need to deploy. I've already created an app YAML as well, with just the runtime. Mostly that is the main mandatory field. After that, we need to take the files from the static folder, which is dist folder, that we are going to create in a minute. So that will be uploaded to Google Cloud, and we will be ready for deployment. So that is where this is actually an unauthenticated application as of now. As we deploy, that we will be able to just browse that without any problem, without any authentication requirement and things like that. So let us see how it goes. Okay, so now that application is built and all the static files are created in the dist folder, we are going to deploy this application, and my project name will be G hands on. um, so it is asking, well, this is very conventional, that the application is going into a particular project and things like that. So files are being uploaded and the service will also be updated. This is going into the default service, so there is so we'll be able to access this once the deployment is complete. So it is complete. We will just take the URL and then paste it on the browser. Okay, so now we see that it is done. We see the same title in both the cases, and the application is up and running. So now that our application is ready, now we need to start configuring the authentication part. So this is how we get into this IAP screen. So it is part of IAM. Uh, just click the submenu identity aware proxy, and for the first time you will get into the consent screen if you have not configured consent. So you will start configuring the consent. Consent is nothing but how do you want to access and things like that. So here we are going with the external identification. Internal means all the users within your project. Now we are going with external, and then we will start with the so all Google authenticated users will be able to authenticate against this application. So that is the idea. So now that we have got into the default screen, we're not going to make any changes other than the application name. We are going to just provide some name here, and we will come back and modify this. I mean, you can do everything in one step, or you can just create this and then come back and edit as well. So I'm going to just create with the default values and then edit the application for the URLs. So the URLs, you already know that we have been accessing the application through the browser. So we will first we'll go through this. So the mandatory items are the URLs and the domain name. So that's all we need to remember. So once we create the dummy one, it gets created, and then we will be able to edit this application. Remember, this application, this consent is only for one time. So one time per project. So you won't be able to create multiple applications in this way, at least. And this is inherently it is OAuth. So that also we need to remember. Okay, so we have the URL. We will just copy paste the URL on the necessary field, and then we will also extract the domain name out of it, and we will do that as well. So that is what we will be doing in this step. You can do this in the first step itself. You don't need to really do it in 2 steps, but for simplicity or for the demo purpose, I'm doing this 2 times. So now you have the URL spaced. Unless you have the domain name, it will show an error. So now we have done the both. We have created. So the authentication configuration is complete. We still didn't bind this with the application yet. So the application is still unauthenticated, right? So we have just created a base for the application authentication. Then the second step is to configure the application. Now here is where the configuration starts. So you see what are all the possible applications that can be authenticated against the consent what we have created now. So now I'm just turning on the IAP for the default service, and that's all the steps. So you don't have many steps to do. So I just did that one, but it is only one step. This is about authentication, but what about authorization? Right, so we will get into that. So this authentication is now it is you can't access the URL just like that. Now it is asking for username, password against your Google account, and it is also showing that it is who is asking, like IAP and all. So now we will be entering some valid Gmail ID, of course my Gmail ID, and then let's see whether I am able to access this. So that is the point that we are going to try at this point of time. So my Gmail is two-factor authentication enabled, so it will ask for the second factor as well in my mobile. So I need to provide the response in my mobile in order to access the application. Now that I have done, let us see whether we are able to access this. Okay, so now I get a don't have access screen. So what does it mean? This means that the authentication is successful, but I still don't have access rights to the application. So there are 2 parts. One is your source of authentication, which has been configured like any Gmail account and things like that. But when it comes to authorization, we should be able to do that as well. There are multiple ways of configuring this authorization. Pretty much conventional ways of doing this, right from the 20 years back, what we have been doing in the authentication and authorization, role-based security, pretty much same. So we are going to add the user to a role, or we can say that any authenticated user can be can be authorized. So all these things we can configure. So here I'm going to take a small step for this demo purpose. I'm going to add a condition where all authenticated users will be able to access the applications. That is all we need to configure for this demo. Of course, we can go still deeper. We can add conditions like I will explain in a minute. Now, just to choose the checkbox, for which it is actually a family of services. You can create multiple services also. The same thing will happen. Same authentication will happen. So here I'm adding members. I can add a particular Gmail ID. If you click, if you see what is there in the info, so this is what we see. So it can be a specific Gmail ID or specific group, or it can be even a service account, or all these sort. So currently what we are going to do is we are going to make it all authenticated users. So that is what we are going to try. All authenticated users means anybody who has got a Gmail account or anybody who has got a Google account. It doesn't need to be Gmail, but any Google account, right? So that's what we are going to try now. Let's see. So it is all authenticated users, and the role will be, you have to be very careful here. It has to be application access. You don't want to give any admin access to all the people. So it is only application access. So that is what we need to provide here. So we will provide application access for all the authenticated users, and you just save it. Okay, it will make sure that you understand that it is a public one, it is not restricted, all these things. You also get the warning on the same page as well. So now it is done. So we will go back to the application access where it was originally denied, and I will also show you the different conditions. In fact, so there are some conditions you can add a new user and all. Okay, so here I am using the same application. Now it is complete. I am able to access this. That ends the demo. Thank you for watching.